Hi, this is DrRic. Today we're going to talk about high blood pressure or hypertension. This is a really common diagnosis, and truthfully a lot of my young guys that come in at the age of 30 for a wellness checkup, usually I'll find a one-time elevated blood pressure. Not to worry, I usually will say it's from being in the office, white coat hypertension, or just fasting for possible blood tests. All these things can induce a hypertensive reaction. Just because you have one elevated blood pressure doesn't mean you have a diagnosis of hypertension. Typically we'll have people check blood pressures outside the office at least 10 times, random times, random places, usually Walgreens, Jewel-Osco, which is a pharmacy chain in Illinois, Dominic's or Target. Even Walmart pharmacies have blood pressure cuffs where you can sit down, put your arm in, and comfortably press the button, and then you'll hear that typical motor occur or sound off. Those blood pressure cuffs are mostly by Omron, and they're accurate. Again, the most important thing is to get at least 10 pressures at random outside my office to either declare that we have high blood pressure or say that, yeah, outside the office pressures are okay, so I'm fine with just observing. The truth of the matter is that because of 1 in 3 Americans being overweight, blood pressure can be a true issue. But what I wanted to do today would be introducing two of the easiest concepts to help with lowering blood pressure. So if you come into a doc's office and blood pressures are high, again, some people will blame that on white coat hypertension. It's actually a diagnosis. But if your blood pressures are high in a quiet and comfortable office, then they're probably even higher when you're driving in traffic, when you're trying to get home and you're hungry, or when you're sleeping and interrupted by a loud buzzer. So that's at least 3 episodes of high blood pressure throughout an average American's day, and accumulated over the course of several decades, that can add to problems with the heart or the brain. So even if it is white coat hypertension, it's still worth treatment. I'm not talking about medicines, I'm talking about watching your diet. There's something called the DASH diet, and I'll put a link to the website that's put out by the government. It's 26 pages of really boring reading. But it is good, helpful information. If you can make it through the big illustrations and the big print, it gives you some nice suggestions on increasing fiber, decreasing sodium or salt in your diet, preserved and processed food really high in salt, and then exercise or movement. It also says watching your weight, but those are really common things. They are common, but they're usually neglected by most people. And then when you go to the doc's office, and then you get your physical, and then we find that even your blood pressures outside the office are all high. If you haven't done those 4 easy basic things, somebody is going to be putting you on a pill. And pills are powerful, prescriptions are necessary, but if you do nothing to change your lifestyle and you just rely on a pill, the likelihood is you're going to gain more weight, you're going to eat more processed food, you're not going to get any more active, and then as the years go by, you'll need more medications. A lot of prescriptions now are 2 medicines in 1. So if you're having to ramp up that double medicine in 1 tablet to the highest dose, you know that in a couple years that's going to be doubled again or added to. So again, the basics of what to do with natural ways to lower blood pressure are always lose weight, just like in the DASH diet, but a couple more things. Losing weight, maintaining some form of exercise, and I think that some form of relaxation therapy is important. And it doesn't mean that you have to be stressed out. It doesn't mean you have to be angry all the time. Again, in those scenarios I mentioned, waking up in the morning with a buzzer, driving in traffic, even having to pay bills at the end of the month. All those can sometimes induce a hypertensive reaction without being angry. And what we do is suggest developing the relaxation response. And I have a few other tutorials where I've talked about that, but one of the easiest things to develop the relaxation response would be meditation. Some people don't have the patience or the training to go to meditate, so I usually will just talk about breath control. Andy Weil, one of my teachers. I filmed him in one of our fellowship meetings, and he has a great 4-7-8 breath technique. I've even broken it down to just 4-8. Now the importance with breath technique is when you breathe in, and again, the breath will automatically take over in case you mess up or forget where you are, so it's easy. But when you breathe in, you'll breathe out. The cool thing about science is that we've found that if you take a deep breath in and you slow down or double the time it takes to breathe out, you're stimulating something called the parasympathetic nervous system. It's too lengthy to talk about here, but the parasympathetic nervous system, there's two types of the things that affect your hormones and blood pressure. Sympathetic, which is fight or flight, and parasympathetic, which is relaxation, digestion, and procreation. In the parasympathetic nervous system, we just call it PNS. In the parasympathetic nervous system, we stimulate the vagus nerve. Vagus nerve goes down right next to the thyroid, goes around next to the heart, and then ends up in the digestive tract. And when you stimulate it, it slows everything down, lowers blood pressure, increases digestion, makes you relax. One of the ways to stimulate it is, again, withholding breath or slowing down on expiration. So I'll just using Andy's technique, if you please review the 4-7-8 breath technique of Andy Weil. Using that technique and yet breaking it down for my yoga participants, it's essentially 4 in and 8 out. So, like this. If you just watch your breath, you'll notice that it comes in and comes out. If you try to break that down into numbers, 4 seconds of a deep breath in, and then 8 seconds of slow breathing out. And I make reference to this in my meditative hiking. Fast breath in, slow breath out, and usually through the nose. Usually at the end of the expiration, I'll have my students that are studying yoga with me contract the abdomen. It kind of expels all the last bits of air in the lungs so that you can take a deep breath in for the 4 seconds in. And then expire all the air in your lungs over 8 seconds, squeezing the belly and the abdomen at the end of 8. Then back into 4, out with 8, in, 4, out, 8. If you do that over the course of several minutes, usually you'll get so in tune with your breath and your number counting, it's almost like a mantra. You'll kind of get into the groove, you'll listen to your own breath because the nose, when you breathe in and out through the nose, it resonates a sound throughout the sinuses and the skull. And if you concentrate loud enough or make the sound loud enough, in yoga it's called ujjayi breathing, but if you make the sound loud enough, it can kind of take precedent over what the ears hear. So if you're in a nice quiet place, even in nature, if you continue with that 4 in, 8 out breath and make it through the nose, it will distract you against what is going on around you, and it'll have you concentrate on going within and relaxing. When you get to that point, when you don't remember you're at 4, you're at 8, or where are you, just for that split second of time, then you've hit relaxation. That's when the parasympathetic nervous system and the vagus nerve, that's when everything is turning on. You won't notice a spectacular relaxation. Usually that's when your cells start to work better. Again, I've mentioned it in other tutorials. Cells fight cancer better, heart works better, cholesterol gets pushed out of this body better, so blood pressure lowers, pulse rate slows down, temperature decreases, respiratory rate decreases. If you can control and bring that on a regular basis, Deepak teaches us in the 7 spiritual laws of yoga to try to incorporate meditation 30 minutes in the morning and 30 minutes at night. I think that practice is very, very good. It's a very good beginning. A lot of my patients who suffer from anxiety just can't stand sitting quietly for 30 minutes. In Ayurveda, it's termed vata. The dosha vata is hard to quiet down when out of balance. But that's why I say, hey, just do it 5 minutes in the morning and 5 minutes at night. If you do it for 21 days straight, like my friend from the Chopra Center, David G, likes to tell us, 21 days straight, then it's burned a path into the brain called an engram, and you get used to the time and the meditation and the quietness. And it becomes an exercise routine. This all takes relaxation, takes time to develop. In due time, if you stick with it, past 21 days, into 2 or 3 months, even if you use it in the daytime to do while you're waiting for your coffee to brew, and if you do it at night, even in bed, while you're waiting for your eyes to get heavy, that still is a regimented pattern of some form of ritual. And when it becomes ritualistic and when it becomes second nature, then you'll incorporate even longer times and it'll be easy. At that point in time, somewhere in the near future, if you continue with it, blood pressure will lower, relaxation will come on a lot easier. You won't have to call on it last minute. A trick that a lot of my patients do is if I have a high blood pressure reading with the blood pressure cuff, they'll say, wait a minute, let me just relax for a second and take my blood pressure again. And that's fine. If you can do that in the office, which most people can't, it's great. But are you going to do that on the highway when you're driving? Are you going to do that when the buzzer goes off in the morning? You're going to do that when somebody at work annoys you? The idea is to do it even before the stressor occurs. And even checking your blood pressure, this noise will actually cause a lot of high blood pressure too, if you're not used to it. That kind of, and then feeling the constriction on the arm, that's stressful. So I can understand why some people get that white coat hypertension. So anyway, the bottom line is to work on your breath, something very easy to help lower blood pressure and make a change. It doesn't cost anything. Again, beginning with 5 minutes in the morning and 5 minutes at night and working from there, 21 days straight.